Why is this game called Infinite Wealth? Probably because you need infinite money to buy all the day one DLCs. Holy Christ, Sega, why? Why do you need to milk dry every one of your franchises as soon as they finally become popular? What's next now? You gonna release the true ending as DLC? No, but Yakuza 8 is called Infinite because it's an infinite game. You can't finish it. Don't say you did, I know you're lying. You can't try to finish a single main mission without being sidelined by some crazy bullshit. You're trying to get to the other side of town? Oh no you don't. You need to help this kid selling lemonade. Now fight the asshole. Now it's time for Food Delivery Simulator. And now go and find your pet crowfish a boyfriend. Wait, what the fuck? It's called Infinite because it has infinite games. This is the last game you're gonna buy, ever. Persona? You don't need that to hang out with your companions. What, you want mementos? That sucks, you can't even mix it with Coca-Cola. Here, Yakuza has 2 procedurally generated dungeons. Tekken? How about Spike Out instead? Pokemon? That game is 28 years old. How about some Sujimon instead, where you capture psychopaths by offering them chocolate boxes? That's how you can tell this game doesn't suck. Pokeballs. Pokemon Snap, Kinder Simulator, I am Jesus Christ. Quality over quantity? Screw that. This is quality and quantity, and I haven't even touched on Doko Island. This is big. It took me 80 hours to finish this game, but 10 of those were dumped into this thing. It's Animal Crossing, alright? But it adds the extra ingredient that the original franchise has always lacked: violence. You're supposed to have this resort getting their trash sorted, but then you start fishing and then building some houses, then you invite the guests and come on, you gotta make them some souvenirs. So back you go to crafting more and... Wait, am I forgetting something? Oh Christ, the main plot! The story is the story, I guess. I'll say this, I've played all Yakuza games and like them all to different degrees, but the plot for me has always been just an excuse to look at cool characters punching each other. And to explain why, I'm now going to recap every single Yakuza game. In Yakuza 1, Kiryu Kazuma unravels a conspiracy brewing in the underworld of Japan as he tries to protect a little kid while getting in fights every 15 minutes until he gets on top of a very tall building where he gets half naked, then turns the big baddie brain matter into marmalade and the villain sacrifices himself for the greater good. And with that, I've just recapped every single game of this series. Take a guess of how many of these points are still present in Infinite Wealth, and if you said all of them, congratulations! Your pattern recognition skills are at least on par with those of a koala. But you know, when a game manages to entertain me even if 1 hour of the prologue is entirely dedicated to a guy trying to get a date, clearly they're doing something right. And that something is the writing, because only in Yakuza you can go from funny banter to life or death situations in a matter of seconds without feeling some kind of whiplash. I love that, and a big part of it here is Ichiban, and Ichiban is my man. This dude could show me a picture of him banging my girlfriend and I'd still be like, yeah man, looks great, this is golden. And yes, this game is too talky and too self-absorbed in its plot twists, but the characters never fail to shine. They all get their own arcs, their own gags, their own emotional moments. See what just happened here? I was supposed to talk about the story, but instead I've been rambling about characters and dialogues for like 15 hours. That's because I lost focus, and if you found that irritating, boy will you have some beef with Yakuza 8. The pacing of this story is atrocious, more irregular than my ECG after taking 2 ramps of stairs. Like every good story, the first cutscene shows an elderly couple getting shot, and then we start off with Ichiban going to Hawaii to meet his mom, but that takes 4 chapters, because we can't just search for her. First we need to wait for Kiryu to join the party, and he's very enthusiastic about that. Now we have to help buying food for this charity, then we need to infiltrate the favelas to get back our passport, now we need to fight this Chinese mafia guy. All of this amounted to over 20 hours before the story finally kicked in, and after that it just stops. You'll be told multiple times how you're running against time, but then the party will just take breaks to talk about work, play baseball, buy some Hawaiian t-shirts, or dog sitting. Only one of these things doesn't really happen, by the way. It goes on like this until the very final chapter, where the developers clearly had to rush things out, leaving open-ended a whole bunch of stuff like, oh Sega, I was being sarcastic, you cheeky bastards. So okay, the plot was the dull side plate to the very spicy meat provided by the characters, but I've left the gameplay as dessert, and it's Well, it's Yakuza 7. And it's not like I'm against sequels that focus on polishing and improving their predecessors, but Yakuza 7's gameplay was a very tasty chocolate cake with a frosting that was a tad bit too bitter. Instead of fixing the frosting though, RGG Studios just added 3% confetti on top of it. And listen, I like 3% confetti, but if you leave the cake as it is for too long, it's gonna start making mold. The difficulty curve is still more of a difficulty roller coaster with hours upon hours where you're just gonna steamroll your opponents until you are met with spikes so pointy you could use them for an acupuncture session. You still can't customize the combat menu, so all the moves you own, including the most useless ones you had at the beginning of the game, are still cluttering the UI. Most of the gear still relies on simple increased stats and there isn't very much depth to it. But hey, there is something new. And that's the fact that the position in combat has a gameplay purpose now, and ooh, that's something I wanted to see. It can be downright hilarious when you manage to crash enemies into each other or into the traffic or create some crazy combos with your allies. But it also relies on chance. You can't deliberately choose where to place your party members, they just move around and you have to make do with whatever position they pick. So rather than feeling in control, I'm starting to perceive myself as a nanny trying to keep some kids in check. But I guess it's still alright though. Yakuza RPGs are not the most technical ones, sure, but they are the fun ones. I spent almost 100 hours on this game and I'm still gonna play more to complete all the side content. I do have one last nitpick though, and that's the fact that yes, I understand, sometimes you need to stretch things a bit to make games like this work, but I have to draw the line when I hear someone called Roman Reynolds speaking perfect Japanese and then change tone completely when speaking English. I don't think I would have complained if there had been more moments where Ichiban and friends couldn't speak with the locals. That would have been a great excuse to just make them go on with the story and shut the hell up.